Looking back, the whole thing is almost funny. Not funny, haha, but funny in that cosmic joke sort of way, where the universe sets you up perfectly and you walk right into it like you're auditioning for a sitcom. 67-year-old Australian bloke pays bar girl to leave the bar, moves her into his condo, gives her everything she needs, then finds a hotel receipt in her purse, proving she's been spending weekends with the bar owner who profits from both of them. I mean, come on, that's comedy gold. Except I was the punchline. Irving Lawson, 67, Australian, Sydney originally. Worked in construction management for 40 years. Made decent money, nothing spectacular, but enough to retire comfortably. Divorced 15 years ago. No kids. Ex-wife Patricia took the house, but I kept my super. Lived alone in a flat in Bondi for a decade. Watched mates settle into retirement, golf, and grandkids. Didn't have either. Just work, then not work, then sitting around wondering what the point was. Mate of mine, Trevor, kept going to Thailand. Kept coming back with photos and stories. Different girl every trip. Looked happy, looked alive. I was neither. So in November 2023, I booked a ticket to Pattaya just to see what the fuss was about. Met Boonsri, my second night there. Walking Street. Bar called Sweet Dreams or Sweet Something. They all blur together, honestly. She was working, dancing on stage. 29 years old. Looked younger. Beautiful. Genuinely stunning. When her shift ended, I bought her a drink. Then another. We talked. Well, she talked. I mostly nodded. Her English was decent. Better than some Australians I know. She asked where I was from, how long I was staying. The usual questions. I said 2 weeks. She said too short. Should stay longer. I laughed. She wasn't joking. She suggested I pay her bar fine, take her out properly, have a good time. Very transactional. Very clear what was on offer. I'd come to Thailand knowing this was the deal. Wasn't looking for love. Wasn't even looking for pretend love. Just looking for company, for not being alone, for feeling wanted even if I had to pay for it. So I paid the bar fine, 2,000 baht, took her back to my hotel. That first night was good. Not mind-blowing, not life-changing, just good. She was professional, knew what she was doing. Made me feel like I wasn't a 67-year-old bloke with a beer gut and thinning hair. Made me feel desirable. Made me feel young, or at least not old. We had sex. She stayed the night, left in the morning. I gave her 2,000 baht. She thanked me. Said call her if I wanted to see her again. I did. Called her that evening. She came over. We did it again. Same routine. This continued for my entire 2-week holiday. By the end, I'd spent maybe 30,000 baht total. Not a fortune. About 1,000 Australian dollars. Worth it for not being alone for 2 weeks. For feeling wanted. For feeling something other than the emptiness I'd been feeling in Sydney. Last night of my holiday, she asked if I'd come back. I said probably. She said she'd like that. Said she enjoyed spending time with me. I laughed. Said yeah, right. She insisted. Said I was different. Nicer than other customers. Kinder. Treated her like a person. I said that's a bar. She said most men don't clear it. I believed her. Or wanted to. Extended my stay another week. Then another. By January I'd been in Thailand 2 months. Seeing Boonsri almost daily. Still paying her. Still treating it like a transaction. But something was shifting. She'd stay longer. We'd watch TV together. Eat meals. Talk about nothing important. She'd laugh at my jokes. Rest her head on my shoulder. Small intimacies that felt genuine. Or maybe I just wanted them to feel genuine. Either way, I was getting attached. February, I suggested a different arrangement. Instead of paying per night, what if I just gave her a monthly amount, 40,000 baht? She could quit the bar, focus on us, be my girlfriend properly. She thought about it. asked if I was sure. I said yes. She said okay. Agreed to quit the bar, agreed to be exclusive, agreed to move into the condo I'd rented in Pratumnak. We shook on it like a business deal because that's what it was. A business deal I was pretending wasn't a business deal. The willful blindness started there. Started when I chose to interpret a financial arrangement as a relationship. Started when I told myself this could be something real, despite originating in a bar transaction. The first few months were good, really good. She moved in. We fell into a routine. Morning coffee together, market shopping, beach walks. She'd cook Thai food. I'd attempt to help. Burn things mostly. She'd laugh, fix it. We'd eat, watch Thai TV. She'd translate bits. I'd pretend to follow along. Evenings we'd go out. Restaurants, bars, not her bar, different bars. She knew everyone. Half of Pattaya knew her. She'd introduce me. Her boyfriend, not customer. Boyfriend. That word meant something. Meant I'd successfully transitioned. Meant I wasn't just another punter. I was special. Different. The one who got the girlfriend experience for real. Or so I told myself. Sex was regular. Several times a week. Sometimes more. She seemed into it. Would initiate occasionally. I know what you're thinking. She was performing. Earning her salary. You're probably right. But it felt real enough. When you're 67 and a beautiful 29-year-old seems to want you, you don't question it too hard. You just enjoy it. Appreciate it. Convince yourself you've beaten the odds. That's what I did. Convinced myself this was real. This was love. This was my second chance at happiness. Never mind the 40,000 baht changing hands every month. That was just helping her. Supporting her. Being a good boyfriend. Totally normal. Nothing transactional about it. Just an older Australian bloke helping his younger Thai girlfriend. Happens. All the time. Perfectly legitimate. Absolutely not paying for companionship. Not at all. Looking back, I can see when the red flags started. July. About 5 months in. She started being on her phone more. Not obviously more. Just slightly more. Enough to notice if you were paying attention. I wasn't paying attention. Was actively not paying attention. Was practicing that willful blindness that would become my signature move. She'd smile at messages. Type quick responses. When I'd ask who it was, she'd say friends. Old coworkers. Staying in touch. Made sense. Reasonable. Nothing suspicious. So I told myself, she also started going out more. Once or twice a week, meeting those friends, those old coworkers. I'd offer to come along. She'd say I'd be bored. They spoke mostly Thai. Better if she went alone. Again, reasonable. I didn't push. Didn't want to be the controlling foreign boyfriend. The insecure old guy who couldn't let his girlfriend have her own life. So I'd stay home. She'd go out, come back a few hours later. Everything fine. Everything normal. Nothing to see here. August, the phone behavior intensified. She'd take it everywhere. Bathroom, balcony, always in hand or in pocket. She'd angle it away when notifications came through. Delete message histories. I saw her do it once, casually scrolling through line. Selecting conversations, deleting them. When I asked why, she said she liked keeping things tidy. Didn't like cluttered apps. Made sense. I also kept my apps organized. Nothing weird about that. Nothing suspicious. Totally normal behavior. I accepted it. Chose to accept it. Chose to not ask follow-up questions. Chose to maintain the comfortable fiction that everything was fine. That this arrangement I'd paid for was actually a real relationship. That Boonsri actually wanted to be with me rather than just collecting her monthly salary. Easier to believe the fiction than confront the reality. September, she started mentioning a name, Sunan, casually, just in passing. Owned a bar, one of the bars on Soi Buakau, successful guy, local businessman. She knew him from her working days. They were friends. He'd helped her when she first started working in Pattaya, found her a job, looked out for her. Good guy, protective, like a big brother. She mentioned him maybe 5 or 6 times that month. Each time I filed it away, noted it, did nothing with the information, because what was I going to do? Tell her she couldn't have male friends, couldn't know bar owners, couldn't maintain connections from her previous life. That would be controlling, unreasonable. Exactly the behavior I was trying to avoid. So I said nothing, nodded along, told myself it was fine, told myself Sunan was just a friend, nothing more, nothing to worry about. Perfectly innocent. October brought more distance, physical and emotional. Sex decreased, once a week maybe, sometimes less. When we did, she seemed distracted, going through motions. I'd ask if everything was okay. She'd say yes, just tired, just stressed, just normal things. I'd believe her, choose to believe her, because questioning meant potentially hearing answers I didn't want, potentially ending this arrangement, potentially being alone again. That scared me more than the distance, more than the red flags, more than the obvious signs that something was wrong. So I ignored them, all of them, practiced my willful blindness, perfected it, made it an art form. November, she was gone more than she was home, 3 or 4 nights a week, sometimes overnight. She'd say she was staying with friends, with her cousin, with people I'd never met and couldn't verify. She'd come back the next morning, tired, distant, would shower immediately, long showers, then sleep, then wake up and be back on her phone. The cycle repeated. I watched it happen. Watched it and did nothing, said nothing, asked nothing, just maintained the fiction. Paid the 40,000 baht every month. Told myself I had a girlfriend. Told myself this was working. Told myself everything was fine. December, I found the first receipt. Accidentally. Wasn't snooping. She'd asked me to grab her wallet from her purse. Needed it for something. I opened her purse, saw the wallet. Also saw a crumpled paper. Pulled it out without thinking. Hotel receipt. Amari Hotel, Pattaya. Room for 1 night. 10,000 baht. Dated 3 days ago. The night she'd said she was staying with her cousin. I stood there, holding it. Processing. Trying to make it make sense. Maybe she needed somewhere to stay. Maybe her cousin lived far. Maybe the hotel was convenient. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. I put the receipt back, didn't mention it, gave her the wallet, carried on. Chose to not confront. Chose to maintain the blindness. Chose comfort over truth. I found 2 more receipts over the next month. Different hotels. Same pattern. Nights she'd said she was elsewhere. 10,000 baht rooms. Fancy places. Not budget hotels. Someone was paying for nice accommodations. Someone with money. Someone who wasn't me, because I definitely wasn't taking her to hotels. We lived together. Had no reason for hotels. So someone else. Sunan probably. The bar owner friend. The big brother figure. Taking her to nice hotels. Spending money on her. While I paid her living expenses. While I funded her life. While I maintained the fiction of our relationship. The comedy of it started to dawn on me. Started to feel absurd. Started to feel like a joke I wasn't in on. Started to feel funny in that not funny way. January, I decided to check. Properly check. She'd gone out. Said she was meeting friends. Would be back late, maybe staying overnight again. I waited 20 minutes. Then went through her purse. Through her phone. Through everything. Found more receipts. 6 more. Different hotels. Spanning months. Some from before I'd even found the first one. She'd been doing this the whole time. Taking trips. Staying places. Being with someone. While I paid her rent. Paid her food. Paid her phone bill. Paid for everything. While she collected 40,000 baht monthly. while she told me she loved me, while she played girlfriend. The receipts were proof, documentary evidence, irrefutable. Couldn't be explained away, couldn't be rationalized. Just were real, were there. Were showing me exactly what this was, what it had always been. Her phone was worse. Locked, but I guessed the password. Her birthday, original. Messages with Sunan going back months, since August at least. Maybe longer. They were together, clearly together. The messages were affectionate, intimate, planning future, planning trips, planning life together. He called her darling. She called him Tirak. They discussed me, the old Farang, the sponsor, the one paying her bills while Sunan got the actual relationship. She told Sunan she'd keep me happy, keep me paying, keep the arrangement going. Few more months. Then she'd have enough saved. Then they could be together properly. Open a business together. His bar profits plus her savings from me. Perfect plan. Simple economics. I was funding their future, their actual relationship, their real love, while playing boyfriend to my fake girlfriend, while believing my own fiction, while practicing willful blindness so dedicated it should win awards. I sat there, reading the messages, reading the receipts, looking at the evidence, and I started laughing. Actually laughing. Out loud. Alone in the condo, laughing at myself, at the situation, at the absurdity. Because what else could I do? Cry, sure, be angry, maybe. But mostly it was just funny. Funny that I'd paid a bar girl to leave the bar. Funny that she'd left the bar but kept the bar owner. Funny that I was funding both of them. Funny that I'd convinced myself this was real. Funny that the universe had set up such a perfect punchline. 67-year-old sex tourist thinks he's found love. Finds receipts instead. Classic comedy. Tragic comedy. But comedy nonetheless. I laughed until I couldn't anymore, until the absurdity became too absurd. Until I realized I needed to end this. End the joke. Exit the comedy. Pack my things. Boonsri came home the next morning. I was packed, suitcase by the door. She looked at it, looked at me, asked what was happening. I showed her the receipts, the messages, everything. Said I knew. Knew about Sunan, knew about the hotels, knew about the plan. Knew she was playing me, knew I was the punchline. She didn't deny it, just looked at me. Calm, almost relieved, said okay. Said if I knew then we should talk honestly. I said sure. Let's hear it. Let's hear the honest version. She said Sunan was her boyfriend, real boyfriend. Had been since before me. She'd never stopped seeing him. Never planned to. I was the financial arrangement, the sponsor, the one who made life comfortable. Sunan was the one she loved, the one she wanted, the one she was building a future with. I was just temporary, just funding, just a means, she said it plainly. Matter-of-factly, like explaining a business strategy, which I guess it was. I asked if any of it was real, any of the affection, any of the companionship, any of us. She thought about it. Said she liked me. I was kind, easy, didn't demand much, better than most customers, better than most foreign boyfriends she'd seen. But love, no. That was Sunan. I was something else. Something comfortable but not real. Not in the way I'd wanted it to be real. I asked if she felt bad. She said no. Said I knew what this was when it started. Knew she worked in a bar. Knew I was paying. Knew the transaction. If I chose to believe, it was more that was my choice. My fiction. My willful blindness. She hadn't lied. She'd just not corrected my delusions. That was on me, not her. She was right. Completely right. Made me laugh again. At myself. At how clearly I'd seen what I wanted and ignored what was. I asked about the receipts, about the hotels. She said Sunan would book them. Nice hotels, romantic weekends, time away from work, away from responsibilities, away from me, time to be themselves. Be a real couple, not playing roles, not performing, Just being. The hotels cost money. His money. He had money. Owned a successful bar. Made good profit. Spent it on her, on them, on their actual relationship. While I paid for the day-to-day. While I kept her housed and fed. While I maintained the baseline so they could have the romance. Division of labor. Division of expenses. I was the infrastructure. He was the fun. I was the support act. He was the main event. Perfect arrangement for them. Hilarious arrangement for me. Funny how that works. Funny how I'd walked right into it. Funny how obvious it all was in retrospect. She asked if I was angry. I said no, just amused, genuinely amused. The whole thing was so perfectly executed, so cleanly done. Bar girl keeps bar owner boyfriend while collecting foreign boyfriend salary. Uses foreign money to build life with Thai boyfriend. Foreign boyfriend so willfully blind he doesn't see it until he literally finds receipts. It's perfect. It's comedy. It's farce. She looked confused. Asked why I was laughing. I said, because the alternative is crying, and honestly crying seems less appropriate. This isn't tragedy. This is comedy. I'm the fool, the mark, the punchline. Might as well own it. Might as well laugh. She didn't laugh, just looked at me. Probably thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. Maybe I am. But I'd rather be crazy and laughing than sane and crying. I asked what she'd tell Sunan. She said probably the truth. That I found out, that it was over, that she'd need to find another sponsor. Or not. They had some savings. Maybe enough to start their business. Maybe they could manage without another foreign boyfriend. Maybe I was the last one. The final sponsor. The one who got them over the line. That thought made me laugh harder. Made me the hero of their story. The generous foreigner who unknowingly funded true love. Who paid for someone else's happy ending. Who served his purpose, then exited stage left. I should get a credit in their wedding program. Special thanks to Irving Lawson for making this possible. Acknowledgement of my contribution, my sacrifice, my blindness. She started packing her things. Didn't take long. Most things were hers anyway. Clothes, toiletries, phone. Took maybe 20 minutes. She stood at the door, bags in hand. Said she was sorry I was hurt. Said she hoped I understood it wasn't personal. Was just business, just survival. Just how things work. I said I understood, completely understood. Said good luck with Sunan, with the business, with life. Meant it. Genuinely meant it. She looked surprised. Said thank you. Left, that was it. 18 months, condensed into 20 minutes. Transaction completed. Services rendered, payment received, contract terminated, clean break, professional exit, exactly as it should be. I stayed in Pattaya another week. Walked around, saw the bars, the girls, the foreign men, saw my story everywhere. Dozens of Irvings, hundreds maybe. All believing their arrangements were special, were real, were different. All practicing willful blindness, all funding someone else's future. All getting exactly what they paid for and convincing themselves it was more. I'd see couples, older Western man, younger Thai woman. Wonder how many were real, how many were transactions, how many were both, how many were like me and Boonsri, like Sunan and Boonsri. Multi-tiered relationship structures where everyone knew their role except the one paying. It was everywhere, systematic, normal, expected. I'd been part of the system, played my part, funded my share, exited when my role was done. I went back to Sydney in February, back to the Bondi Flat, back to retirement, back to being alone, back to where I'd started. Friends asked about Thailand, asked if I'd had a good time. I said yes. Great time. They asked if I'd go back. I said probably not. They asked why. I said I'd gotten what I came for. They didn't ask what that was. I didn't volunteer. What would I say? I came to not be alone, ended up funding someone else's relationship. Got exactly what I paid for, nothing more, nothing less. Learned a valuable lesson about willful blindness, about seeing what you want instead of what is, about comedy versus tragedy, about being the punchline. Would they understand? Probably not. Probably better to just say I had a good time and leave it there. Couple months later, I heard through the expat grapevine that Boonsri and Sunan opened their bar. Called it something like Golden Dreams or Future something. Successful, apparently. Doing well. Good for them. Genuinely good for them. I'd contributed my 40,000 baht monthly, my 18 months of support, my willful blindness, my participation in the comedy, had helped make it possible, had played my part, had served my purpose. Should feel used, should feel bitter, should feel angry, feel mostly amused, mostly entertained by the absurdity, mostly appreciative of the cosmic joke. The universe set it up perfectly. I walked into it perfectly. We all played our roles perfectly. Perfect comedy, perfect execution, perfect punchline. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. The thing about willful blindness is you choose it. Consciously choose it. Every red flag, every receipt, every message, every distance, every absence. You see it, note it. Choose to ignore it. Choose comfort over truth. Choose fiction over reality. Choose to keep paying, keep believing, keep pretending. That's willful. That's intentional. That's on you. Can't blame Boonsri. Can't blame Sunan. Can't blame Thailand. Can't blame the bar system. Can only blame yourself. Blame your choices. Blame your blindness. I chose it. Every step, every month, every payment. Chose to not see, chose to believe, chose to fund, chose to play the fool. That's on me, completely on me. Can laugh about it because it's my joke, my comedy, my punchline. Would be tragedy if I hadn't chosen it. But I did, so it's comedy. Friends tell me I should feel betrayed, should feel hurt, should feel something darker than amusement. Maybe they're right. Maybe amusement is avoidance. Maybe laughing is defense mechanism. Maybe comedy is how I'm coping with tragedy. Probably, likely, definitely, but it works. Keeps me functional, keeps me from wallowing, keeps me from being bitter. Betrayed men are boring, hurt men are tiring, angry men are exhausting, amused men are tolerable, can be around them, can listen to them, can laugh with them. I'd rather be amused, rather laugh at myself, rather own the joke, rather be the punchline who knows he's the punchline. That's better than being the tragedy who thinks he's the hero. Looking back, I can see exactly where I went wrong, can catalog every mistake, every moment of blindness, every choice to ignore. Started when I decided a bar transaction could become a real relationship. When I paid her to quit but didn't acknowledge I was still paying. When I called her girlfriend but treated her like employee. When I ignored the phone behavior. When I found receipts and did nothing. When I maintained fiction over truth. When I chose comfort over reality. Each decision, each choice, each moment, all led here. All led to the punchline. All led to me laughing alone in my Bondi flat about the time I funded someone else's love story. Perfect trajectory. Perfect arc. Perfect comedy. Here's what I learned. If you're a 67-year-old man in Thailand with a 29-year-old girlfriend you met in a bar, she probably has a Thai boyfriend. Probably has him the whole time. Probably building a life with him while you pay the bills. That's not cynicism. That's statistics. That's pattern. That's system. You're not special. You're not different. You're not the exception. You're the rule. You're the norm. You're one of thousands playing the exact same role in the exact same system, funding the exact same thing, believing the exact same fiction, practicing the exact same willful blindness. The only difference is whether you figure it out, whether you find the receipts, whether you laugh or cry. But everyone's playing the same game. Everyone's the same punchline, including me, especially me. If you find hotel receipts in her purse, she's cheating. Obvious, simple, direct. Don't rationalize, don't explain, don't justify. Just know. Know and decide. Stay and keep paying. Leave and stop paying. Both valid, both choices. Neither wrong if you know what you're choosing. I chose to stay. Chose to ignore. Chose blindness. That was wrong. Not because she was cheating, but because I pretended she wasn't. Pretended the receipts meant something else. Pretended the fiction was real. That was the mistake. Not the cheating, the pretending. The blindness. The choice to not see. That's what I'd change. Not leaving earlier. Just being honest with myself about what I was participating in, about what I was funding, about what role I was playing, would have saved the surprise, would have eliminated the punchline, would have made it less funny, less absurd, less comedic. But then I wouldn't have this story, wouldn't have this perfect example of cosmic comedy, wouldn't have this absolute farce to look back on, would have been boring, would have been predictable, would have been just another transactional relationship that ended predictably. Instead, I got comedy, got absurdity, got the perfect setup and execution, got to be the punchline in a joke the universe told. That's worth something. That's worth the 40,000 baht monthly. That's worth the 18 months. That's worth the willful blindness. That's worth being the fool. Because at least I'm an entertaining fool. At least my story is funny. At least people will laugh when I tell it. Even if they're laughing at me. Especially if they're laughing at me. That's the whole point. That's the comedy. That's what makes it work. I'm back in Sydney, back in the flat, back to retirement, back to alone. But different now. Different because I have perspective, have distance, have the ability to laugh, have the story, have the comedy. Boonsri and Sunan have their bar, have their future, have their happy ending. I funded it, made it possible, played my part, served my purpose, exited appropriately. Everyone got what they wanted. Everyone won. Even me. I got the comedy, got the absurdity, got the perfect punchline, got to learn about willful blindness, got to learn about myself, got to learn that I'd rather laugh than cry, rather be amused than angry, rather own the joke than be destroyed by it. That's worth the money. Worth the time. Worth everything. Genuinely worth it. So yes, I fund out my girlfriend's relationship with her boyfriend, the bar owner, the real one, the one she actually loved, while I collected receipts, while I practiced blindness, while I played the fool. And it's funny, actually funny. Not funny haha, but funny in that cosmic way. Funny in that absurd way, funny in that punchline way. I'm the joke. I know I'm the joke. I'm okay being the joke. Because the alternative is being the tragedy. And tragedies are boring. Comedies are better. Even when you're the fool. Especially when you're the fool. Especially when you choose to laugh. That's the trick. That's the secret. That's how you turn tragedy into comedy. You just laugh. You just choose amusement over hurt. You just own the punchline. You just accept you're the fool and laugh anyway. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'll keep doing. That's how I survive this. By laughing, by finding it funny, by being amused at my own expense, by being the joke and knowing I'm the joke and laughing anyway. That's enough. That has to be enough. That is enough.